The Devil's Advocate. My lords and ladies, gentlemen of the jury, when you hear hoofbeats, assume horses, not zebras. This is true in almost all parts of the world except the African savanna, where it is safer to assume zebras. Also eland, giraffes, herds of this and that. In India, assume cows. In Spain, bulls, matadors with their sun-blurred hooves. In Tuscany, angels. In Kingdom Come, horses again, pale quartets of wish you were here. My client sends his regrets. He is busy, falling through blank verse for all eternity, while a mere afternoon passes its shadow over us. The sun moves from one window of the courthouse to the next, and then it's tea time. 1 sugar or 2, perhaps a bun. Stretch and yawn, and back we go. I submit for your perusal Exhibit A. This is a map of the world, of God, and of everything. Above is heaven, below is hell. The future is to the right, the past to the left. My client, in his plea for mercy, wishes me to recall his salient points. His sense of humor, direction, and yes, style. His tendency to violent foreshortenings, and that finding himself irredeemably zebra, he hoofed the streets of his brawling, captious nature, kicking up dust and all the limping platitudes of this earth, our home. They tell you dreams don't come true, but they never tell you how. Young Eve. Summer's head of cabbage, each next breath, the garter snakes oozing from the undergrowth, fat ripples of black and gold. Some loose green fuse tripped our intention. I drove north along the highway with my boyfriend in his daddy's pickup, looking for a place to park. The day had a crack down the middle, was one way of looking at it. Then I opened my shirt and unhitched my bra, more for the relief of air than his distraction, although I achieved both. Before was the garden, after the burn of day, down to the wick, the scuffle and cut, his mouth stubbed out against my own. And where did you hear we were naked, is what I want to know. Unzip, unzip. My jeans round my ankles, his open at the waist. Blames me for what happened next, wants to snap my thighs for a wishbone. As if there were wishes, as if he could extinguish himself in me. Her boyfriend. Her mouth a wound, rubbing salt. Love was not a word we would have used. Begin again. Everything was dying. The sky ticked in spasms above us. Then the tomatoes began muttering, blood and wince and cut. All synonyms for love. For love I cut my losses. Each loss eased her reckless burn. Some cold, hard seed pushing hunger out of the earth. A craving for salt or sufficiency or vegetable lust. An accidental, misshapen thing. Let me begin again. What about free will? What about the angels crunching their obedient apples and trimming their beards? The garden was the beginning, where she first coincided with herself. She was my north, my south, my worst, my best. Her thin bones my compass, her languor my rest. Any old snake. He suffered in the rind of summer. Hot winds cracked the surface of days, and birds fell from the sky, their eye-holes trailing smoke. Children spun like scarecrows in empty fields. The river rattled its broken spine in the dust, and the dead swelled up and blew as we watched. That's life, she said. You'll find sympathy in the dictionary between shit and syphilis. She was 16 and seeding like dandelion, blown on the wind, selving. Somewhere in the night a train whistled through town, a screen door banged open, shut. We needed a garden or the idea of a garden, an annihilating green-shaped thought to cast some shade. Young Eve all grown up. The angel Gabriel comes to me, all bone and leather, held together by ego and a gubernatorial pose. It wasn't night, I wasn't dreaming. You're looking well, young Eve, he says, ignoring the scaffolding that rivets the past in place, breath, scales, subtlety, old grudges, old ribs, an ancient electric sword flashing in the dark. No, you don't you dare. And always the same kids squabbling over their daddy's share, the meager, worm-digested earth of his love. Somewhere my old man waits for me, his eyes blown like dandelion clocks past the hour of sobriety. I was midrib to his leaf until a tree sprang up between us, and then a forest, and then a library of imaginary books about trees, forests, deciduous thoughts. Too much, all the green-blooded world staunched between the covers of paperback novels, thickened by the fall into cooling baths and the drying out on late-night radiators. The angel turns out his pockets and holds up his hands. He is searching for the garden we lost once, and every day since. Verde que te quiero verde, he whispers in my ear. Green, how much I want you, green. Green wind, green branches. I look everywhere, scattering sins like pomegranate seeds, breaking the law with my bare hands. Disobedience is the way back, a lie, a lapse, a bite of something plucked, not fallen. The angel Gabriel straightens his arthritic wings and shuffles off in his crushed heel slippers and his scuffed ideals. While around us in the desert, some damn memory wavers and grows steady, blooms, shimmers, and dies again, which is to say green. Green, I want you, old fracture, old friend. Green branches on the green wind, green marrow whistling through pale green bone. And in the library of imaginary books, poems ripen wet and lush as time-lapse fruit inside their husks. And they all lived, says Jacob Grimm. Here's how it begins. My sister Lot knows the stories. My brother Wilhelm writes them down. Our mother yanks open the forest and throws us all inside. The birds have eaten the bird crumbs, cries Lot, and the cats have eaten the birds. The wolves the cats, says Wilhelm, the axe the wolves. In the end, not even the angel of death can stomach such hunger. Here's how it goes. The stories circle us and begin to wail. We are just dreams, they say. If you die, we will never be born. One by one the stories step forward and offer their names. Hansel, says one. Gretel, says another. Ah, that is butter. Ah, that is honey on warm bread, sighs Lot, licking her fingers. And Wilhelm is already straddling the one called Rumpelstiltskin. Around us, the stories kneel down on all fours. The hunger to be born is an animal offering its haunch for the mad dash through the jaws of enough, enough, enough. Here's how it begins again. My brother, my sister, look back at me with keyhole looks. Already they're growing smaller, red helium, memories tied with string, or how time flows both ways when the river thaws. Spring is still a palindrome here in the Hanau Valley. Dear Lot, dear Wilhelm, once upon a time every story was the story of our mother's starvation. The wild, wild hunger that stalked her as she followed her stiff white breath into the forest, throwing us like grains of salt over her shoulder. For luck, for love, forever, If only we'd known whatever was for.